Tensions are mounting again between Israel and Palestine, and the exchange of air raids and rocket attacks has entered its second day. An Israeli aircraft struck in Gaza and Palestinians fired rockets at Israel after an Israeli operation against the Islamic Jihad Militant group ended more than a year of relative calm along the border. Israel says it struck Palestinian Islamic Jihad group, which was preparing to launch rockets. And according to witnesses, additional bombings targeted 3 houses, flattening at least one as the sounds of more explosions rocked Gaza City. In response to this, the Islamic Jihad Militants fired at least 160 rockets across the border, setting off air raid sirens and sending people running to bomb shelters as far as the central Israeli city of Modi'in between Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. According to the Israeli authorities, most of these missiles were intercepted and there were no reports of serious casualties. Israel's military warned that deadly airstrikes against the militants in Gaza could last a week. Israel has deployed troops and artillery close to its border with Gaza and has also stopped the planned transport of fuel into Gaza shortly before the Friday strike, clipping the territory's lone power plant and reducing electricity to around 8 hours per day. In West Bank, the Israeli military apprehended Islamic Jihad activists in several locations. Now, according to the army, around 20 suspects were arrested. The Israeli army said in a statement that troops' activity against the Islamic Jihad terrorist organization are continuing. And now, in a sign that the conflict could expand, the head of Iran's Revolutionary Guards said, and I quote, that the Palestinians are not alone in their fight against Israel and will work to uphold the rights of the Palestinian people. End of quote. But the Hamas appears to stay on the sidelines of the conflict for now. Israel and Hamas have fought 4 wars and several smaller battles over the last 15 years. Every conflict between Israel and Gaza leaves one thing in common, and that is the sight of people burying their loved ones and living in complete despair, looking for a permanent solution to this decades-long conflict. Russia has called for maximum restraint in the Gaza Strip. Britain, too, is urging for a swift end to the violence, while saying that the United Kingdom stands by Israel and its right to defend itself. Joining us live now from Tel Aviv is Mir Javed Anfar. He is Middle East analyst and co-author of the Nuclear Sphinx of Tehran. Welcome to WION, Mir.
Thank you. Hello there.
What really sparked this fresh round of tensions?
It looks like that Israel had prior intelligence that Islamic Jihad was about to embark on a number of attacks. There was some there was some indications that Islamic Jihad had a terrorist infrastructure in West Bank. Then there was a very big concern that the head of the Islamic Jihad went to Tehran. We have to remember that unlike Hamas, Islamic Jihad almost 100% depends on the Islamic Republic of Iran for its not just funds, but also political relationship. Hamas also has good relations with Iran, but it's not. It doesn't receive orders like from Tehran as Islamic Jihad does. So there seems to be that there was reports that Islamic Jihad was by the orders of Iran, was about to launch on a campaign against Israel. So Israel took the initiative and started attacking Islamic Jihad targets in Gaza, and also arrested a number of Islamic Jihad people in the West Bank.
Javed Anfar, let me ask you this. In your own view, do you see the situation escalating from here on?
Difficult to know. To be honest with you, as long as Hamas doesn't get involved, I don't think it's going to get worse. Look, the situation is that you have to remember that Hamas and Islamic Jihad, they live together in the same area, but right now it's not in the interest of Hamas for the situation to get out of hand. So Israel will have to be careful about what kind of attacks it carries on. It will have to be careful about the civilian casualties. And if the civilian casualties are kept relatively low and Israel doesn't strike Hamas targets, I don't think the situation is going to escalate, because I don't think Hamas is too happy with the way that Islamic Jihad has challenged Hamas's ambitions to keep some kind of stability in Gaza.
Finally, Mir, before I let you go, how potent is the Palestinian Islamic Jihad? And how do you see the statement of the Iran's Revolutionary Guards, who have vowed to stand by Palestinians?
Look, PLO and Hamas are the two biggest Palestinian political organizations. Israel must try to improve relations with the PLO, because they have recognized Israel and we have security cooperation with them. We can't do anything with Hamas. Hamas doesn't recognize our right to exist. Islamic Jihad is the third biggest organization. It's a militant organization that calls for the elimination of Israel. It's much more militant than Hamas. Unlike Hamas, Islamic Jihad has not participated in elections, in Palestinian elections, because it seems that its Iranian bosses don't want it to stand in the ballot box, because they might be defeated. And it's very concerning that Iran is openly saying that they're behind this. But at the same time, it's not very surprising, because Iran and Israel have been involved in a war from 1982, when Iran started supporting the Hezbollah movement in Lebanon.
Mir, finally, I did say that I will let you go, but this is my final question to you. The Israeli army says that its military offensive, the military offensive in the Gaza Strip may extend over a week. What will be the possible repercussion of these actions by the forces?
That's another very good question. To be honest, I think, look, you can't eliminate Islamic Jihad completely. I think what the message Israel wants to send to Iran via Islamic Jihad is that Israel will not allow Iran to use Islamic Jihad to threaten its security. And I think the goal will be to strike as hard a blow as possible to Islamic Jihad's military infrastructure and its personnel, so that their capabilities are set back. And also Iran recognizes that for the time being, Israel will not allow Islamic Jihad to be used in order to undermine Israel's security. But that doesn't mean Iran's going to stop. Iran has another proxy called Hezbollah in Lebanon. We see them threatening the gas fields inside Israeli territory, the Karish gas fields. And then, once this conflict in Gaza calms down, we may face a new crisis up north with Iran's other proxy, Hezbollah.
Mir Javed Anfar is a co-author of The Nuclear Sphinx of Tehran and also a Middle East analyst. Thank you very much for making time and for talking to WION today.
Thank you.
Well, tensions are mounting again between Israel and Palestine, and the exchange of air raids and rocket attacks has entered its second day. An Israeli aircraft struck in Gaza and Palestinians fired rockets at Israel after an Israeli operation against the Islamic Jihad Militant group ended more than a year of relative calm along the border. What we know is that Israel says it struck Palestinian Islamic Jihad group, which was preparing to launch rockets. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.